everyone. It's so great to be back at YeurDreamin, even though just in this virtual way. I can't see the clues from you, whether I should speed up, slow down, whether you get it or don't, but that happens. But you have the power of your video player to skip over, slow me down, or speed me up. Let's see what I have today in my pocket. Data import and YeurDreamin. I probably don't pronounce it the best way, but I tried to be as much Dutch as possible. But what's important is the subtitle. Join me to find how to simplify this task, how to be quicker and more effective, and at the end, enjoy the task. The reason is that I do enjoy data loading, believe it or not, but that's because I do have a few tips in my pocket. So with this presentation, I really try to get deep and cut it to the most important part, even though there are plenty of things you might know from all other people. Who am I? I'm Martin. I'm director at Actum Digital, which is a company based here at Prague, working across the whole globe, doing Salesforce implementation besides other things. But what's maybe even more important is that I'm behind the YeurDreamin. So if you want to meet the community, go to Prague at the end of May, and we will love to see you. If you want to save a bit, YD25 will give you a discount, so don't hesitate and use it till we have our tickets. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and YeurDreamin. It's the topic for the presentation as well. Data preparation first, org or instance preparation second, and at the end, the actual data load, which should be the most simple thing. Let's dive into the first part, data preparation. To me, data preparation is about templates, about external keys. If you never heard about, that's something which might simplify your job a lot. I even saw a full Dreamforce presentation about the external keys. That shows how popular it is or how important it is to really do it properly and enjoy the whole benefits. I'll be speaking about data cleaning, about Excel, and about reports with IDs. Templates. That's the thing I maybe hate the most, but at the same time, it's the thing which has the most impact if you are importing data. It's one of the techniques which the big 4 companies are using to simplify their job, and they know why. They will provide this Excel template to a customer and will ask them to provide the data in the template. I usually have been working the other way around, that I said, just give me the data, I'll do what I can do. But if the customer is able to fit into your template, that will save a lot of time on your side. But it's not just about the time you save, it's also the trust the customer will have, because they prepared the data, they know their own data. So if anything is wrong, it's the customer's fault. If they will just give you a data and you will do your best, they will need to double check your work as well. If you have the template, I would say clearly identify which fields are mandatory and make sure that the data fill in the validation rules. I saw it evident now that because you can load the data without the validations and without the mandatory fields and all these kind of things, customer will just take a shortcut and they will later on clean the data, but they will never do that. So later on, every single user will have a challenge to use the data, will have a challenge to update the records, especially if there is some automation behind. Like you update an account and it will update the address, the postal address on all accounts. If on the account, the first name is mandatory because the customer decided to, and you load the data without the first name, the automation on the account will fail as well. So they won't be able to update the postal address of the account, and everyone will be confused because the error message is pretty clear at the end, but they don't expect that they will need to tweak all their contacts attached to the account. So be careful about that and force the customer to really clean the data before. The next thing is the external key, and that's one of my favorite tips. External key is this simple checkbox you have when you are creating a new field. And what it allows you to do is to reference this record based on the external key, not based the Salesforce ID. Why? How to use it? This is a clear example. I do have Excel file which has just 4 columns for the contact, first name, last name, email, phone, whatever. And then it has another 2 columns for the tasks the customer wants to create for each contact. Due date, subject. If you don't use an external key, you will load the contacts first, then you will export the IDs, you will map them in an Excel file to the proper lines, and then you will be creating the tasks. Or if you will mess up the data import, you will delete everything and you will start from scratch. If you put there one more column, which is the external key, and the format of the external key doesn't matter at all, it's completely up to you. You can use the text field with 255 characters. You are able to reference the contact by the external key and create the task directly after the contacts. You don't need to export the data mapping the Salesforce ID. You will just use the external key as the ID. What it also can help is that it will really make sure the unique values. As you can see, we do have 2 Peters Novak. One of them, each of them has a different email address. And because I put the email address as part of the external key, I can distinguish between those 2 records. So it might be tricky how to create the external key, what's the format, what you put together, but it might help you with some deduplication as well if you use it in the right way for the right approach and for the data you have. Big debate, when to dedupe the data. Before the load, after the load, because no one wants to have the data in the system, but everyone had them in the previous system. I am in the do it later camp, and I use the Plauti and demand tools for these reasons, because they are good and they save time. The reason why I do it after is that it's easier to do the data load, because all the links between the different records like account, contact, opportunities, tasks, in the original files you get from a customer is based on the duplicated data. So if you will deduplicate in the Excel file, you will also need to handle the linkage between contacts and accounts and opportunities and accounts, because suddenly some accounts will disappear because they have been deduplicated. Plauti need the demand tools are for free, so you should account for that in the budgeting, but I would say it will save you the work, the time, and it's worth the energy. What I found out while be doing the last import for a customer is that also there are some great extensions for Google Sheet and for Microsoft Excel. And the reasoning we had was that the customer had multiple lines for the same account if they had multiple industries. The account still shared the same external key. So it was easier to deduplicate them in the Google Sheet and put all the industries in one pick list field, because we all love the multi-select pick list. So for that, I installed this extension. I'll put a link in the presentation, and it can find the duplicates and specific fields just merge into one value. So that was super helpful. And if you are looking for more information about the data cleansing and how to have the clean data and everything, Andre Van Kempe, your very own, and there has a plenty of presentation on that, and I would say they are really good. Left, find, concatenate, lookup. If it feels like a language you don't understand, you are right. You need to be Excel ninja to be great in data import. Expect a lot of time to spend in Excel or Google Sheet. because it will make the import easier at the end. So the first thing I would say, if you get the data, don't replace the values. So in this example, I do have the account name and I do have the name of the account owner. The easiest way how to put the ID of the account owner, because it's a user, would be to just find and replace, especially if you have just 5 of them. But the more owners you have, the more tricky the situation is. And also, if the customer will give you an updated file, you need to do this find and replace again and again and again. And it's pretty consuming. So my approach is to create a new list in the Google or Excel file and use the VLOOKUP function to find the text I do have in the account owner or C2 or C column, find it on the other list and use the ID which I have on the other list. You can use it for IDs. You can use it if you have old values and new values and you need to do this replacement for all different purposes. I always say, okay, add another column and do the VLOOKUP instead of search and replace. The other thing why I said it's easier to ask a customer to provide you the file is all these simple things which obviously you can help the customer with. Like, I need to separate the name into the first name and last name. So you have a Martin Humpolec or Jan Wandervelde, and the first name is obviously the part which is before the space, and the last name is obviously the part which is after the space. So there are a few functions in Excel, right, left, find, len, which will help you to find the space and separate the string based on that. There are probably even better functions. And it looks super easy, and I can definitely do it for the customer, so they will save time. But then you have Andre. And if you follow the same logic which we agreed with the customer, that is the right logic, you are in a bit of trouble unless you are happy that Andre's last name is one campaign, which probably is not the best format, but it's always up to the people. The same is with the postal addresses. So quite often I get from a customer really well formatted postal address. It's obvious based on the first line that the street is the part before the comma. The city is the part after the zip code, basically till the very last space. Well, maybe not always, because Prague 4 or Praha are the same cities. So one has a space, one does not. And there are even addresses which does not have the city at all. So again, if you request the city as part of the mandatory fields, there will be a lot of cleaning after that. So you can definitely help the client. It will take a lot of time, and then you will still need the client to confirm that the way how you separated all the things will work. One important and crucial thing, if you are importing data and you didn't hit this error yet, email address in Salesforce can have just one email. It's not email, comma, email. It will fail. It has to be one email, and it really needs to be in the format of email. So ampersand, at least one dot after that. So that's all you need to keep in mind. Reports. Always, always, always ask the users or train the users to use the ID in the report as well. The reason is pretty simple. Every single time the user will export the data out of Salesforce because they just need to play with them in the Excel file. That happens, and I'm totally fine with that. But very often, more often than not, they want to update the data in the Excel file, or they will update the data in the Excel file, and they will ask you to upload the data back. But again, very often, almost always, they will provide the data without the IDs, and they will basically update whatever in the file, so you have no key you can use. They will fix the email addresses. They will fix the opportunity names. They will fix the account names. So you can't use it as the external key because they will be different. If you will train them to put the ID in every report, they can just ignore the column, but then if they will provide the data back, you can use the ID to match the data. And one of the best trick I using on daily basis is whenever the customer asks me to update the data, as you can see in this example, they ask me to update all the staff _ C field to the same value. What I do for that purpose, and this is a screenshot from the workbench, is that I include the isDeleted column or isDeleted field as well. The reason is because the field is always false. So then I go into my notepad and I replace the false with the value they want to replace it with. And then when I'm updating the data, I'm using the value from the isDeleted column. Because otherwise I would need to run the search and replace for all those different stages and be sure that I really used all of them. Or maybe I can do it quickly in an Excel file and just drag it and replace, but it doesn't work for me. And the reason is that when I have the geography set to Czech Republic in the Excel file, it doesn't use a comma separated file, but it's using semicolon separated file. So then it's harder to import the data. So I use the isDeleted to replace one value with any other value quickly in a notepad because it's the quickest way how I can replace the values and load them back. The second part of the preparation is the org preparation, instance preparation. And there are a few things: automation, validation, email deliverability, preferences, API limits, and backup. Automations, validations, emails. I would say always do or design to be able to switch off automations and switch off validations. The reason for switching off automations is that the import will be way quicker. It doesn't matter if you have 10,000 records, but if you have a few millions of records, it can be a difference of a few days. So you definitely want to disable the automations. The same is for validations, because as I said before, quite often the customer doesn't really have a clean data, and you can either fight with the data import, or you can just load the data in and then create them a report and ask them to fix the data. They will never do, but that's their problem. But if you don't import the data, they will be complaining that there are data missing. And if you don't import account, you will not import the contact, you will not import the opportunities and all those things. So there will be plenty and plenty of data missing. So from this purpose, from this angle, I would say import everything, blame the customer in the instance later on. And what I don't do very often, because I'm switching off the automations, but I should be doing it, is switch off the email deliverability. What a word. Why? Well, I've been looking for a great example and I just got the example in my inbox. I submitted the article a few years back. Now it looks like they've been doing some update, some extra validations and etc. And they updated all the data and the automations hit. And I've got these reminders or these notifications about all the articles I submitted a while back, which does not have this field filled in. Obviously, I don't want to get that. So be careful, switch off the automations, load the data in a format you really need to load them. Don't expect that the automation will do it for you. API. You can ask the support to raise the limit of API calls. Out of the box, the limits are pretty high. You don't really need to do it until you will hit the limits. So my advice is always ask support to raise the limits. The reason is that they are happy to do it. They will ask a few questions how you plan to load the data, when, and then they are happy to raise the limits. If you don't ask them because you are well below the limits, what will happen is that you will do one load. Check the data, delete the data, another load. Check the data, fix the data in the Excel file, delete the data, another load. And suddenly you will be doing the same thing 3 or 4 times and you will hit the limit. If you ask for raising the limits, you are much more safer. I said that the support will ask you how you plan to do it, and I would say there are a few things how to do it. Obviously, we will be speaking about the tools, but the more crucial, maybe the more important question from support is whether you will use the REST API or bulk API. Typically, the REST API is good if you have less records, because it's basically one call per record, so it goes pretty quickly. But it's a direct response. The record has been imported or the record has not been imported. If you have a bulk, you will take the whole file and upload it to the server, and then Salesforce eventually will start processing the file, and at the end will process the file and will get you a reply. So if you have just a few records like 5, 10, 100, it will take longer than the REST calls. If you have plenty, like thousands and thousands, it will most likely finish sooner because it will be processing them in a bulk or in batches. And in batches, speaking about batches, parallel versus serial, what Salesforce can do is that it can take the big file, it will separate it into different batches based on various reasons, based on how many files you have, what's your preference for the batch size, what's the utilization of the servers, all these different things. And then it can process the batch one at a time, or it can start processing multiple batches at once. It's the same as with multitasking. Sometimes it's totally okay to multitask, and sometimes you will do the things quicker. Sometimes it's super hard to multitask, and it's better to do one thing at a time. So if you are loading accounts, for example, which does not have a link to any other object, you are pretty fine to do it in parallel because it will load multiple accounts at one time in parallel, all good. If you are loading contacts and associating them with the account, whenever you are inserting the contact, it will lock the account as well. So if you have multiple different batches which are being processed at the same time, and the contacts in different batches links to the same account, the multiple batches will try to lock one account, which will fail. It will create a lock error, and Salesforce will retry. It might retry for a few times. There is a limit, and it might go successfully, or it might fail, and you need to load them back, load them again. So from this perspective, whenever your object refers to other object with lookup or with master detail, it's better to load them in a serial manner because it goes one batch after each other, and at the end, it will be probably quicker. This great slide is taken from Cyril's and Julian presentation from last YeurDreamin, where they had a great session about backups. Backups are all the same till the moment they are different. So as you can see, there are plenty of providers, and my recommendation is to use them, especially if you are updating data. If you are loading the initial load, it doesn't matter because you can delete it any moment and you still have them in the file you imported, so that's fine. But if you already have files in the system and you just need to upload them, if anything wrong happens, you want to be able to roll back. And backups are the tools to do that. Obviously, you can download the data before and then eventually update them back. It might be more work and the backup might be easier to use. So keep that in mind. You definitely don't need it, but it's helpful. Last section, but not the least, maybe the most important one, because so far we've been doing the preparation, but we didn't do any load. So let's load the data. There are tools. There are validations, there are sandboxes, all these things. Let's see. This is not the exclusive or exhaustive list of tools. There are more of them. If you have the admin certification, you know about the import wizard and about its limits. It does not support all objects. It supports up to 50,000 records. But besides that, it's pretty okay. I very often use the workbench because it's the quickest way for me how to export import data. The limit here is roughly 2 megabytes of the file size. Then it will fail. The standalone data loader which you install on your machine is perfect if you have loads and loads of data. There are some theoretical limits of few millions, but I would say it will go anyway. It's all about the Java heap size on your computer, so you might want to tweak that. There is a great dataloader.io, which is free up to 10,000 records per month, which might be enough. What I really love about this tool is that you can use any field as the external key. So normally you need to mark the field as external key. There is no harm if you do it or not. But dataloader.io does not need that checkbox. It will offer any field to act as an external key. It also supports a box and Dropbox to upload the file, so it might be helpful from this side as well. I played with the data importer IO. Don't really use it on a daily basis, but it exists as well. There is a great extension or application for Microsoft Excel and for Google Sheets. I've never been so brave to link my Excel file or Google Sheet to the Salesforce instance, download the data in the Excel, upload, change them there, update them there, and upload it back. Nor I've been so brave to give this privilege to my users, but it might really work for you. So check them out. We'll see whether it's helpful. Last but not least is the Talent tool, which allows you to orchestrate the whole process of importing data. So you can say, okay, here, load the accounts first, then load the contacts, then load the opportunities, then load the files, then load the task, and it will process the whole data import pipeline and load everything. In all the other tools, you had to go one by one, first account, then contacts, then opportunities, then task, and so on. Talent will orchestrate this, so you can just start it and came back second day and everything will be imported. So obviously this might be helpful if you want to load the data into Sandbox first, because you want to see how it will end up, especially if you already have a data there. So with Talent, you will just say, okay, the target is Sandbox, start the pipeline, and then check the pipeline if all is good. Set the destination to production, load the data, and you know that the result will be the same, I would say. Data validation. I almost always want the customer to do that. The reason is that they know their data. Even though if they have 1 million contacts, they know every single one of them, which always surprised me, but they will just randomly open some record and they know what should be there. When was the last interaction, how many opportunities they had, whatever. So rather than comparing the files, it's for me definitely easier to let the customer play in the system, check the reports from different angles. So like, okay, show me the number of opportunities in 2024, show me the amount of opportunities at Czech Republic in 2024, show me the number of contacts for companies which has less than 500 users. And if you go few different angles and the numbers are the same, you most likely have the right data. At the same time, I would say don't aim for 100% success rate in the data import. It will never go well. There will be the 2 emails in 1 email field. There will be a long text. There will be missing city, which is mandatory now. All these kind of things, which you can tweak again and again and again, and importing more and more data again and again and again, Or you might just say, okay, guys, we hit 95%. It's okay. Everything else, here is the error log. Go check it out, update on your own. It will save a lot of time, and is that. Till the moment they will realize that even 1% of their data is a lot of data. So if they have 1 million records, 1% is 10,000 records. So if they need to enter them manually, it's pretty annoying. But it goes back into the data quality they will provide to you. And again, if you will play the ball on their side, it will be easier for you, because otherwise you will be struggling. You will be trying to fix the data, which is their data, and then you will hit the complaint that you fixed the data in a wrong way. The most surprising thing, if they already have been using CRM or other structured system, is that the existing system they use might not have the right statistics. It was surprising to me, because we've been really importing like hundreds of thousands of records, millions of records, and then we did the reports. We summarized by year, by region, by type, whatever. And the numbers did not fit each other, even though we've been pretty sure that we imported all the records. And then we find out that the rounding was wrong in the existing system. So they've been counting they've been processing the data, analyzing the data in a wrong way for last a few years. And the difference was kind of a lot of money, like hundreds of thousands of euros. So it was surprising for all of them. Luckily, the rounding was in the wrong direction, so they've been better financially than they expected. Last but not least, take your time. The data import will take time. If you want to rush it, if you don't have enough time, if you are under pressure because it has to happen over the weekend, it will fail and you will fail. It will take longer because the Salesforce infrastructure is just busier than usually. So don't rush it. If you really have a lot of data which you need to import over the weekend, import the old data which will not change anyway, and then do just the delta which you are confident that you can do over the weekend. Find a way how to stage it, how to separate it, how to make it ongoing, because if you are under time pressure, if you have like, it has to happen in 6 hours, and you know that it will take you 4 hours, there is a high risk that you will make a mistake, even though if you have a checklist, that the infrastructure will be slower, whatever. What's important as well is that during the org preparation, I told you to disable all the validations, all the automations, and ideally disable it by some flag. So on the user record has a custom field, which when will be true, the automations, the validations will be off. Use custom settings, use custom permissions, whatever, but have a way how to do it in bulk, because there's nothing worse than going through all the validation rules we have in the system and disable them one by one, or go through all the automations you have in the system, disable them one by one, and then enable everything. But don't forget to enable the things, because then you will have the data loaded in the right way, but the system will not enforce whatever. It will not be sending notifications because you disable it. All these kind of things. So roll it back, enable whatever you disabled, double check that everything is working, and get your coffee. Q&A. Sadly, we can't do a Q&A because you have no way how to reach me, but I do have one question. Whom will I see at Prague? If you want to come, YD25 as a discount, and I will love to see you. Have a great day.